Community Hotline is made possible with generous support by Gresham Ford, the dealer with a heart. The Contribute to the Community program provides the opportunity for the Gresham Ford team to make a positive impact, serving their customers and helping people across the community. The Outlook, serving the residents of East Multnomah County for more than 100 years. The region's #1 source for information, The Outlook provides readers with intensely local coverage of the issues and people that impact our lives and community. The Mount Hood Cable Regulatory Commission, advocating on behalf of the public interest on communications policy issues at the local, state, and federal levels.
And by Stamp Connection and BeFit Gyms. A very special thanks to all the sponsors who help make our programming possible.
Hello, my name is Monica Weitzel, and I'm the host of Community Hotline. Tonight's program starts with a very special guest, Gresham's newly retired Fire Chief, Greg Matthews. I wanted to talk with Greg to recognize the incredible commitment he's shown to his community and as an example of what a life of service looks like. Tonight's second guest is from Restore Oregon. Find out what Oregon's most endangered places are and what this organization is doing to mitigate the situation. Stay with us to be inspired on tonight's episode of Community Hotline, coming up next. Hi, and welcome to Community Hotline. I'm Monica Weitzel. We're here in Gresham at MetroEast Community Media. Thanks for joining us tonight. I have with me to start out the show a very special guest. It's retired Gresham Fire Chief, Greg Matthews. Thanks for being here.
Of course, thanks for having me.
Oh, it's really a pleasure. You know, you've had a very long and long career of service to the public in all sorts of areas.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about that, but I want to, if you don't mind, start way back at the beginning, because
Sure.
I understand you are a Gresham native.
Yes.
And I'd love to hear about your experience growing up in East County, if you
Sure.
don't mind.
Well, you know, when I was a kid, I went to East Gresham Grade School, Dexter McCarty Middle School, Gresham High School.
You're a gopher?
Yeah, I played baseball in Main Street Park. You know, I rode my skateboard up and down Roberts. I rode my bicycle to school. I just, you know, one of those kids been throughout the community. I can walk up and down Main Street and still talk about the stores that used to be there.
Right.
And also, you know, back when Main Street was one way. I still remember coming home from the military and one-way street turned to two-way, and I almost,
you almost got in an accident, right?
Yeah, I made a little mistake. But
wow.
It's been, you know, this town's real special to me because of that. And my childhood, you know, all these memories I have. I mean, my first job was at Gresham Arby's. A lot of folks don't know that, but yeah,
that's on Burnside there?
Yeah, right on Burnside. Yeah. And I got the job by driving through the drive-through window. I was in the back seat of a Pinto wagon with my parents, and they asked the manager if she was hiring. She had me come in the next day, and I got the job there, and I was on the drive-through the next day. So
I love it.
Yeah, lots of fun.
Yeah, well, you know, and that's such a great thing to grow up in a community and then be there and raise your own kids there. You know, it's
absolutely,
it's like you come full circle.
Well, and it's so fun to see, you know, the folks that were kind of pillars of the community back then as they've continued to grow. And as a kid, then I become an adult, and I'm actually working with them on things.
Right.
And I always think, you know, and that's why it's so important when you're a kid to make good, responsible choices, because you never know who you're going to see
it can
later
always
on
come
in the
back.
future.
I remember when you did this when you were 10.
Yeah, I'm very proud. When I was a dare officer with the police department, which we may get into, Donna Stevens, my neighbor across the street, turned out to be a 5th grade teacher at Hollydale Elementary. So I show up in her classroom, and she tells the kids about how little Greg Matthews used to carry her groceries into her house.
Oh, how cute.
So,
I
you know,
love
it's
it.
just kind of fun.
It.
I love the fact that I am kind of that neighborhood, and I would say kind of the American dream. I always wanted to serve the town I grew up in. It's been really great.
And you've done it well. Were your parents involved in volunteering and doing things in the community?
They were involved in shuttling to everything. So I can tell you, I played ice hockey, I played soccer, I played football during school, and
you said baseball.
And if there was a sport and a ball was involved, I was usually part of that. So they were shuttling myself, my brother. I have a sister as well. So
they were chauffeuring.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's time consuming enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And involved in the schools from a PTC perspective. But,
right.
Back then too, I think as a kid, I don't think you realize how much your parents are doing in the community. I can tell you, I think sometimes my daughters don't recognize all that my wife is doing and even that I'm doing too.
Yeah. Yeah,
they'll recognize
when they
grow
up and get their own
Absolutely.
family, they'll figure that out.
Absolutely.
I'm sure they will. So after you graduated from Gresham High School, then is that when you went into the service?
Yeah, it's kind of the first stop I made was I went to Mount Hood Community College because I thought, let me see if college is for me. But ever since I was very young, I wanted to be a police officer, and you can't be a police officer till you're 21 years old in Oregon. And I wasn't exactly ready to settle down into college. Mm-hmm. You kind of have to be a little more responsible. Nobody's taking roll. They don't care if you show up at class or not. It's on you. And I just felt like I really just wanted to start my law enforcement career. Yeah. And the military offered me a place to go. And Sergeant Henry Giacovino was my recruiter and took me down there. I signed up to be a military police police officer and a paratrooper. And I was guaranteed stateside assignment at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, and became part of the mighty 118th MP Company Airborne, and the rest is pretty amazing.
So what was that experience like for you? Obviously, you were part of the police there, the military police, so you got some experience there.
I could not have asked, and I only spent 3 years. A lot of my friends were lifers in the military.
Yeah.
They've retired out. But I could not have asked for a better military experience to be in a more strack, more proud unit than the 118th MP Company. We had Captain Russ Consilla, we had Lieutenant Rick Green, Sergeant Mike Escaday, Sergeant.
Do you keep
the
in
list
touch
goes
with any
on.
of those people?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We do our own first platoon reunion.
Oh, that's great.
And we get together every couple of years. And I'll tell you, it's like you never left. And I'd like to say, basically, we talk about the things you can't remember with the friends I'll never forget. Mm-hmm. But it's amazing when I think about those leaders. They were in their early 20s.
Right.
When I think about, Chris Carrianis and Matt Demmett, these guys they were like, gods to me. They were NCOs, they were sergeants. But they're responsible for our safety. So,
mm-hmm.
Very early in, to my time at Fort Bragg, we were deployed to Grenada. And that was a huge wake-up call for me. That was something I wasn't necessarily expecting. I think it took everybody by surprise.
Did you expect to be staying stateside through your
I
whole...
really didn't really give it much thought. Nowadays, you join the military, and you probably should expect that your bag should be packed. Back then, that was new. And again, that unit was awarded the J.P. Holland Award, the Eagle Award. It was the top MP company in the United States Army. And I just could not have had a better group of people to serve with.
That's a great experience and great service to the country.
Yeah.
But at that young age, that's got to be transformative.
Yes, and you get real close with people in those situations. Our assignment was the True Blue Medical School with the with the students to rescue and evacuate the students. So we have some pretty unique experiences that really drew us close, and we get together every couple of years and still.
Well, you remember all their names, so you obviously do stay in touch, and they're obviously near and dear to you.
To say band of brothers and sisters, it's just an amazing group.
Wow. So after you left, then is that when you became a police officer? Then?
Right. So when I left the military, which was a huge decision, I thought about re-enlisting.
Did you?
But I wanted family, and family's very tough when you're in the military, especially in a deployment unit. So I thought I'll give myself 1 year to come home, find a job, and if I don't, I'm going back.
Did you have a special someone you wanted to marry?
Not at all. No, I was starting from scratch. My focus was on my career, but I knew in life I wanted family.
Right.
But I was a sergeant in the military, and I didn't want to lose that rank. And so that was the goal, 1 year. And within a year, I was able to find employment with the city of Gresham. And I still remember I got that phone call from Connie Ryba. I literally dropped to my knees. I got emotional. And it was a dream come true. And that's when I started my police career, was May 4th of 1987.
I remember the date.
Oh, I remember it, everything about it.
Wow.
It was amazing. And my career has flown by.
It does. I mean,
Yeah.
the older we get, the faster it goes.
Yeah.
Did you apply other places, or did you just want to be in
I had
Gresham?
applied to the city of Portland. And at the time, the problem was my application was great. I did pretty well, but I didn't have a college degree. And at the time, the sheriff's office, the state police, the city of Portland, they all required college degrees. And I had military experience and no college degree. And so, the first thing I did, obviously, I enrolled in college and started putting in applications and got hired with the city of Gresham, which is kind of funny because you fast forward later, when I tried to take an EMT course, I actually was on academic probation with Mountain Hood Community College because I was taking about 18 credit hours when I got the
that's a
call from
lot.
Gresham, and it was beyond the drop date, so I just didn't go to school. I went to
you
my
just-
job,
yeah.
and I got zeros and everything, which means I failed that entire semester.
Because you didn't go. You weren't
Yeah,
there,
it didn't really help the balance of the GPA. So it was kind of funny to have to, go through the probation, but rules are for everybody, not everybody else, and I did what I had to do.
It's kind of goes to show that school isn't for everybody. Not everybody needs to go to college. It's great if you can, and it's a wonderful experience, but there's other paths to
Right,
take
and you
too.
think about, like someone that has a farm or a family business or, trade schools. I mean, there's a lot of alternatives for kids.
There
And
are,
I just think you keep your options open.
You find your own path.
Yeah, and I'm real proud of the military career, and I think that's really what opened the doors for me, moving
Right.
forward in the future, because it gives you a great deal of confidence, responsibility, accountability.
You probably
things that-
matured a lot.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, I'm sure. So then how long were you a police officer?
About 10 and a half years, almost 11 years. Yeah, and that was fun. I enjoyed it. It was everything I thought it would be. I had the opportunity to be a traffic officer, so I was a motorcycle officer. I was on the SWAT team. I was a
heard
defensive
that you're on the
tactics
SWAT team.
instructor. Yeah. It was one of those where I had everything going for me and all the ego stuff, not that I was chasing it, but it all kind of fell into my career. And then all of a sudden, I'm approached about the DARE program, the Drug Abuse Resistance Education, being with fifth grade kids, being in all the schools in the Gresham-Barlow School District, and I thought, gosh, this might be something I'd want to do. And so when I got in that program, what I say is I blame that program for the success or the failure, whatever you want to call it, of my police career, because it knocked the tactical edge off of me, and right away I started
humble you a
feeling
little
more
bit?
about more sympathy. Not that police don't, because I love our law enforcement,
right.
but I started viewing my role differently in the community. Rather than enforcement, I thought about being the conduit to, how do I connect kids to services? How can I help families in need? How can I kind of address those things that don't get addressed within the court system? And it was very rewarding. And I did that for about 3.5 years when I was approached by the fire marshal about a job within the fire department.
Wow.
So
I can see how that would happen though when you're working with the kids and you see things from a different perspective, because yes, enforcement is a big part of your job, but so is helping people and getting, and especially with kids, you don't want them to be afraid of police officers. You want them to understand that you're there to protect and serve.
Absolutely.
And so I can see why that would make a big difference.
yeah, being a police officer, again, childhood dream, very rewarding. I loved every bit of it. Putting on that uniform, just
Proud
that
as
was
can be,
everything
I'm sure.
I wanted to be.
Yeah.
And then I kind of started thinking along the lines of, well, what's next? And then public information officer opened up with fire, arson investigations, and I headed there. And which was really odd to go to work, walk through the same door, and then take a left instead of a right. So
Wearing a different uniform.
yeah.
So was that a difficult decision to make?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Very tough decision, and one that I regretted instantly.
Did you? Why is
absolutely.
that?
It just didn't feel right. I came over. I became part of a group called the Fire Marshal's Office. I was sitting in a room with my new team, and I just looked around. And I thought, this doesn't feel right. I've left everything I ever wanted, and why did I do what I've done?
So did you move then into primarily a desk job?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, working in prevention, that's rewarding as well. I'm working with kids still in the program because we were doing a risk watch program. It was for injury prevention. So I was really capitalizing on a lot of my skills, but it just didn't feel right. And I can't really label why. All I know is I had gone back to the police department. I'd talked to Chief Justo, and he was willing to to make things happen. It was an inner city promotion. The police officers union at the time wanted to have a meeting with the E-board to talk about if I could come back. And the ruling that they had was, since I had left, that I'd have to come back at bottom seniority instead of losing the 6
After
days
10
I was
years,
gone or 2 weeks I was gone. And I remember just thinking to myself, like, you know what, it's too early to do this. I'm not going to freak out just yet.
Give it a shot first.
Yeah, and I started, sometimes you got to change your perception and your perspective. And I felt like, this is me, with my attitude towards this opportunity. Maybe I need to look at this differently, and maybe I need to make this the way that I think it needs to be. And we did that. And Fire Marshal Dick Jones was instrumental, and we were able to really just kind of take off from there.
Did you stay in that position for quite a while?
For a while I did, and oddly enough, so as a public information officer, it's working with the media, working with the community. That was a great job too. And that was one of the many aspects of the job. But then budget came along, and the first thing on the chopping block isn't going to be firefighters at the fire station. It's going to be prevention personnel, which is really unfortunate.
Right. Something that you really
So
need.
a job's going to get eliminated, and it's in the budget. I'm not lowest seniority in the unit at the time. But the person that is, I felt like I could actually transfer into the position on the line, because there was a funded vacancy on the line because one of my dear friends, Don Katz, had passed away of cancer. And you never hire one firefighter to fill the role. And I'd already been through the academy because I wanted to get that experience, hands-on experience as a PIO. So I was qualified. So we came up with this idea that we wouldn't have to lay anybody off if I would transition to the firefighter role. And that's what I did.
Wow. That must have been quite the change.
It was, and that's where you have to have support from your spouse. And my wife has been, I've said it before, I wouldn't be nearly anywhere near where I'm at today without her involvement. She's been with me for over 2/3 of this journey and supportive all the way.
So where did she come into this picture? When did you get married?
She came in, well, she probably saw me when I was riding a police motorcycle, let's face it.
Said, hey, kind of like that guy.
If I would have had the courage to approach her at Mount Hood Athletic Club back in the very early days, she would have come into my life, 30 years ago, but that's not the case.
That's not what happened.
She comes into my life about just as I'm early into the fire career.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
yeah, being married to a police officer or a firefighter, you have to have some pretty special skills. You have to have some patience and understanding and.
And I'm going to tell you, my wife is not only brilliant and beautiful, but she's powerful and smart, and also self-supportive and independent. Having the firefighter schedule of 24 on and 48 off didn't hurt her one bit in terms of what she was doing too. We had just, her parents owned a grocery store in Selwood, so she was running this Market Basket Thriftway. And then we, once we got married, which we're celebrating our 20th anniversary this year, but once we got married, a year or so later, we become pregnant. And so we end up getting into the daycare business. And so she had plenty to do without me getting in the way. So that was great.
Just stay out of the way, and I'll just take care of business here at home.
You just keep going about being the best daycare in Gresham, and I'll just keep,
And she still has that
absolutely
daycare, correct?
Right,
Yeah.
Small World Learning Center.
Yeah.
Does a great job there,
That's
So,
great.
and we have great staff and families, and it's fun. So,
wonderful.
I was the repairman on weekends, but I've grown past that now.
Somebody else can do that now.
Somehow somebody with more skills has been asked to help out.
So where then in this career did you decide to go into politics?
Well, so, yeah, the one thing about my career, I've never stayed still and stagnant.
Oh, you've been a busy man.
So in 2008, the Oregon State Firefighter Council was trying to get a bill passed, and it was on safety and staffing. Important bill for the safety of firefighters to be able to negotiate these things. And at the time, I'm our union president, which I had fulfilled that role for about 10 years. We went to the Capitol building, and I remember asking to speak to my legislator, then the Honorable John Lim. And I remember him telling me he didn't know how he was going to vote on this, and he went in and voted no. And I thought, doggone it. And let me just say this. John Lim is an honorable man, and he has a wonderful family, longtime Gresham volunteer, does a lot for the community, and served a great deal to the state. But I was approached by a group, Senator Jeff Merkley being one of those, Speaker Dave Hunt being the other, asked me to go to the refectory and sit in the back room as they asked if I would run for office. I didn't give any thought to this initially. I told them no 12 times, and then eventually I said yes.
On the 13th time, you said, okay, fine.
Yeah. Oddly enough, I was recruited by the Republican Party prior to that, about 3 years prior.
Really?
But I'd said no to that as well. But something about this was important because in the balance was cancer presumption for firefighters. And it was really important to me because of, we all know somebody's been impacted by cancer. We do.
Sure do.
And in the fire world, it's a dangerous job. And there's been plenty of studies that reveal that the carcinogens, as they burn off, become this toxicity that you wear it. It's in your bloodstream.
It's like being a coal miner or something,
right? Absolutely.
Yeah.
So it was thought that if we could end up, if I could run for office and I could be that vote, and I might be able to be the one that would turn the tide to the majority and blah, blah, blah. And I never in my life thought we'd win. I just really didn't. But then again, I've never entered anything I wasn't going to win. So
you gave it your all.
So there's something about in that situation when you're asking your friends to contribute to you, and you're asking,
it's hard to do.
Don't give to politics. You're supporting me.
Right.
You're not going to fall short of the finish line. You're going to run through the tape and you're going to do your best job.
Because you don't want your money to have gone for nothing.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah.
And so that was one heck of a race, and we won and went in 2009. And Mike Schaffler, then representative of Happy Valley, was the chair of the Business and Labor, and I still remember him handing me the bill to carry on the floor for cancer presumption. So
that was pretty emotional, wasn't it?
Yeah. So pushing the green button, I don't know if people realize when you're in that role of a politician, we cast them aside really quickly. But there are a lot of things they're very passionate about. But it's a huge responsibility when you have two choices in front of you, and this is on the floor. You can say red or you can say green, and you can know that you're going to answer to your community regardless of how you vote. Pushing that green button that day was really
a big
amazing.
deal.
Yeah.
I think we had a picture or two maybe of you from those days. Maybe we can bring those up here. But yeah, it is a huge responsibility.
Yeah.
You're representing people. It's not just your vote. It's your, oh, no, this is
there you go.
This is later. This is Camp Rosenbaum.
Oh, yes.
So, and we can talk about that in a little bit too.
That's the talent show, sure.
But, and that's one of the nonprofits I know that you support.
Yeah, and I think, Monica, I get emotional about the cancer presumption because I know people that have benefited from that bill.
Yeah.
And as I say, it's not really a benefit when you have to have cancer in order to to have that coverage.
Right.
But it is amazing when you think about their families not having to worry about what are they going to do when you can no longer be a firefighter.
Right.
And a lot of folks come back and they battle hard, as we know we have lots of friends that do. But I get emotional about that because it was so exhausting to get in the arena to get to that day.
Yeah.
So.
But and it must have felt so good when you were done.
It was amazing. It was amazing. Yeah, there's a good group of folks right there from Camp Rosenbaum. So.
That's great. I wanted to see. I know I had one picture of you from your politician days.
Okay.
I don't know if we can find that, but so there. This was the one.
Yeah, there's Speaker Dave Hunt probably telling me I just upset him and need to vote it. No, just kidding. Dave was a lot of fun to work with, and that's one of my very first photos right there for the voters pamphlet.
Wow, that must have been a really big deal for your family too. How was that? Because you had to spend a lot of time in Salem, right? How did that work out? And you were still working?
Right, and I think that's what a lot of folks don't understand is, it's a citizen legislature.
Yeah.
So it paid at the time about $24,000 a year. And so I was taking leave without pay off the firefighter schedule in order to go down and serve in Salem. So a typical day might be if I was working at the firehouse on a Monday, I would go straight to the Capitol building Monday morning. I'd report to duty Monday afternoon, Monday night, work that night, Tuesday morning go back to the Capitol building. Tuesday night I get home about 8:30 and then I'd be able to sleep in my own bed and then have Wednesday
Hi,
back
honey.
in the Capitol building. Never spent a single night in Salem.
Really?
No, I'm very proud of that. Didn't take any of those fancy trips to Japan, China, or anything. I just really focused on what was most important. That was family, and serving gave me a great sense of pride. But I also knew that some of my dearest friends were upset with votes I had taken, but I was always pretty proud that I'd be able to explain why I did what I did. And again,
they
you
were
have a choice.
conscious decisions. You knew what you were voting for.
Yeah, a lot of us understand the value, and we have a choice or we have an opinion. But it doesn't have to be public unless you want to post that on social media.
Right.
But if it comes right down to it, and you're going to be held to that for the rest of your life, what are you really going to do?
Yeah.
You know, so
'cause it's going to be on the books forever. People are going to know.
Oh yeah, and they do. You'll
Yeah.
get reminded of that all the time.
So you went through 3 terms.
Yes.
Terms.
Yeah.
I know we're going to be running out of time, so I want to get back to you became.
I will say, in terms of legislature, I ended up, I was the chair of the Veterans Committee for the House of Representatives, which was I was most proud of that assignment, and did a lot of great work for veterans, which was the most rewarding work we could do aside from the cancer presumption bill, but pretty amazing. So.
Yeah. And I just did an interview with someone about some veteran services, and there's people you can really be proud to represent.
Absolutely, yeah.
So after you, then you left legislature after 3 terms, and then when did you become fire chief?
So during that time, so in my final term, the opportunity for the fire chief opened up, and it was an internal opportunity. I had put in for it. At the time, I was a fire lieutenant. This makes no sense to anybody on paper, I can tell you that. But I think given my experience within the legislature, given my experience as a union president, given my abilities to lead the troops and work with our council, I ended up becoming the fire chief. And I had great help from my assistant fire chiefs, Scott Lewis and Mark Monder, and an amazing team down there with Randy Deverell and
it's a huge
Roop.
job. It's a huge job.
Big job, and that's why I left the legislature. I didn't get fired by the people, thank goodness.
Doing
because
two things would be.
But you can't really do a Monday through Friday 8 to 5 expectation job and serve in the legislature.
Right,
Something's got to give, and so I stepped out. Okay. And then came to be the fire chief, which was great.
In Gresham again. So,
yes.
I mean, you just keep coming back to Gresham.
Yeah,
I mean, you
absolutely.
never really left, I guess.
No, my high school counselor predicted I'd go nowhere. Here I am in Gresham.
They were right.
Yeah.
They were right. I just want to touch real quick before I close on, you have done so many other things in the community. Your career is illustrious and very impressive, but you're seen at almost every Gresham event that I ever see. You're the, I think we had a picture of you emceeing the Teddy Bear Parade every year. You and there you are with Carol Nielsen Hood, and that was last year, I think.
Love her. Yeah, we have a lot of fun.
I took that picture, so you do that, and then the Gresham's Got Talent, and then the Spirit of Christmas, and the chamber events. What was that? There was a chef thing, and and then you do some music. I mean, your music whole things are pretty funny.
And
then you've done a lot. And then I just have to say that the fire team, the Gresham Fire and Emergency Services was honored last year by the chamber.
Yes.
For the best. It was big business.
Right.
That the whole department was honored.
Very exciting. Yes.
Yeah. And then this year you were the honoree of the year,
which was amazing and surprising.
And I know, and I almost felt like you were embarrassed about it. But you know what?
I was.
You deserve it. You deserve it.
I appreciate that.
One thing I think is that people need to see that they need role models of people that contribute, that give back to the community. Because I get the feeling that you think that's really important.
Well, and I think that's how we continue to take care of ourselves and our community. People got to lend a hand. You can't just sit down and complain at the nearest coffee shop. Get involved. And this community has a ton of opportunities to do that. And you mentioned the MC opportunities. It's much like this show with you. You've been doing the show a long time.
Yeah.
And nobody could see anybody else doing it. And I hope that that's what they see in some of these roles I've had with Spirit of Christmas and Teddy Bear Parade and anything else I've been a part of. I want to continue those things. That's my desire to continue to do those things.
So you're going to be retiring, but you're not going to leave Gresham.
I will.
You're not going to.
It's one thing to retire from a position of fire chief, but I will never retire from volunteering within this community to try to make this world a better place. That's my goal.
So what is your motivation? Is it just because you feel that you need to do that as part of the community? Do you want to do this for your kids to have a better life?
Well, yes, and I think that you're truly not going to feel the pulse of this community unless you're involved in it.
Yeah.
And it might sound a little self-serving, but I'll tell you, when you're at that event for Mr. Gresham and you're unveiling a statue and you look around, you've got hundreds and hundreds of people, and a whole lot of them are friends of yours.
Right.
And they're all there to just kind of like culminate this event. And you're a part of that, whether by witness or by act of MC, it's amazing. And it, again, it lets you feel the pulse of Gresham. This is an amazing community. I love it dearly. God bless our mayor and all the work Shane does and his council. But I got to tell you, I just think that if people want to complain, then get involved and make it better.
There you go.
And if you're one that thinks things are going in the right direction, tell somebody something positive. We can control that, you know.
I love it.
I'd love to see that.
We're out of time, but I cannot thank you enough for all your years of service to the community and for coming here as my guest tonight. And congratulations on an illustrious career.
Thank you.
And you'll be going off doing more volunteer work. Are you going to do some work with your dad, I think?
Oh yeah, I'll be volunteering. I'll go down to Memory Lane, Matthews Memory Lane at 26th and Holgate with the old classic cars, and that's always been part of the plan.
Good.
I'm going
Dad'll
to
be
miss the
happy.
people. I'll miss the work, but
You'll see them. You'll be seeing them all.
I'll still be around. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Thanks.
you, Monica.
Yeah,
Appreciate
you bet.
it. Thank you.
Thanks for watching this special segment of Community Hotline. And if you see Greg out on the streets in Gresham, which I know you will, you make sure you say hello, and congratulations on a great career. And don't go away. We'll be right back with more of Community Hotline.
Community Hotline is made possible with generous support by Gresham Ford, the dealer with a heart. The Contribute to the Community program provides the opportunity for the Gresham Ford team to make a positive impact, serving their customers and helping people across the community. The Outlook, serving the residents of East Multnomah County for more than 100 years. The region's #1 source for information, The Outlook provides readers with intensely local coverage of the issues and people that impact our lives and community. The Mountain Hood Cable Regulatory Commission, advocating on behalf of the public interest on communications policy issues at the local, state, and federal levels.
And by Stamp Connection and BeFit Gyms. A very special thanks to all the sponsors who help make our programming possible.
It is so important for me to have the right to be able to speak what I want to speak and talk about what I want to talk about.
If you start shutting this person up and shutting that person up and shutting this person up, that's not America.
Hi, I'm Benjamin, and this is Angie.
We're with Multnomah ESD Hospital School Program at Unity Center for Behavioral Health.
Every week, Community Hotline introduces you to local nonprofit organizations like ours, working to improve your world. Tune in.
Hi, and welcome back to Community Hotline. I'm Monica Weitzel. We're in Gresham at MetroEast Community Media. And now we're going to talk with an organization called Restore Oregon. And here to represent Restore Oregon, I have Caitlin Weber. And Caitlin, you are the Preservations Programs Manager.
I am.
Welcome.
Thank you. I'm
Nice
very
to
happy
have
to
you
be
here. Yeah. So Restore Oregon, I know just a little bit about it, but I understand it was formerly the Historic Preservation League of Oregon.
Yes, we were founded in 1977 as the Historic Preservation League of Oregon out of Eugene.
Okay.
And then it relocated to Portland, and we've recently in the last few years gone through a bit of a rebranding, so we're now known as Restore Oregon. But our mission is to preserve and reuse and pass forward all the special places that make our state what it is. Anything that's important to people is important to us to save.
I love that. I love that. So when you say places, not so much outdoor environmental work, is it? Is it that too, or is it mostly buildings and structures?
It's a lot of buildings and structures, but places in and of themselves aren't something that we've ignored. So, for instance, one of the places that we work with right now is a ferry boat out of Astoria, the tourist #2. So, we work with a lot of different types of resources, and we're definitely open to helping people save, open space that's culturally important to them as well.
So you're pretty wide open to
Absolutely.
to whatever needs to be restored
Yes.
and preserved. So why is this work important?
It's so important because it defines what makes us, what makes our communities livable and sustainable, and to be able to pass forward the cultural heritage in our communities is so important to feeling like we're connected to each other and our stories, and it's really a great way to just connect with each other.
Yeah.
And
don't you love it when you meet somebody that you're restoring something of it, and you tell them what you're doing, and they're like, I remember when.
Absolutely. It's all about sharing those stories and what makes something important to a particular group of people. And that ranges from anything from a beautiful architectural wonder, in downtown Portland to a rural barn out in Eastern Oregon. It doesn't have to be an architectural wonder to be something that we care about and want to save.
Right.
Absolutely.
You have a short video, or a part of a short video that kind of tells a little bit about Restore Oregon. Do you mind if we go ahead and just play that now?
That'd be great.
Okay. This was a MetroEast video.
Oregon has a wealth of historic places that tell our story, fuel our economy, define our sense of place, and offer a legacy for future generations. But many of them are in urgent need of intervention. Restore Oregon's Most Endangered Places program advocates for and saves irreplaceable historic buildings and sites at risk of being lost to neglect, demolition, economic downturns, bad public policy, or encroaching development. Updated annually, the places on our list are nominated by concerned citizens across the state looking for help to save their heritage. Restore Oregon has delivered innumerable hours of testimony, provided over 4,000 hours of consulting services, and over $80,000 in seed grants. This, in turn, has leveraged an additional $4+ million in restoration and rehabilitation work, saving these places. Your contributions have galvanized preservation in Oregon and allowed it to flourish. Join with us in 2019 to save and pass forward Oregon's historic treasures.
I love that collage of all those those ones. So how many projects are you working on right now?
So the Most Endangered Places program is a kind of a rotating list. People around the state nominate new places every year, and we decide kind of what our capacity is. So right now for 2019, we have a total of 12, and 3 of those places are new. But since the program's inception in 2011, we've helped over 50 places just through this program.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah.
So tell me how this works then. People nominate, and then you as a group decide, and then what's the next step? What do you have? I mean, how does that work? And there was also a comment on that video about the economic impact of it. I mean, is it not better sometimes to just get rid of something and build something new, or is it better to try to save these?
Yeah, usually economically it's more affordable to reuse a standing building than it is to knock it down and build a new one. And you can go to our website, there's a lot of studies that have been done on that. We have lots of information on that in particular. But the next, as far as choosing a place, it kind of depends on the nominations that we get from a year-to-year basis and what our capacity is as a staff to help them. So it really helps when people have an established community group that are ready to get to work and start.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're here to help connect people with resources and historic preservation professionals. We provide a seed grant through our Most Endangered Places program that gets people connected with preservation planning professionals.
Okay.
We also spent quite a bit of time and effort on something called our Preservation Toolkit, which is available on our website, which takes you step by step through the process of saving a historic place.
Okay.
The endangered places that we choose for our list are those that either have a really serious threat of being lost, or they just need that extra attention from our program and our organization and partners to help save.
So if I were involved, say, in the Save the Such and Such house in my community, because I've always loved it and it's got some historic significance and whatever, and I've got this small group that's already working on this, we could nominate that.
Yes.
And you would consider it.
Yes.
to help us along and give us some of the tools we need to make sure that it happens.
Yes, every year we accept nominations. Usually the deadline is about mid-July.
Okay.
And we have a committee of very dedicated volunteers who help us comb through those applications.
How many do you get every year?
It depends. Sometimes we ask people, to apply because they're just not aware of our program, but we usually get about at least a half a dozen or more, just,
every year?
Yeah, at least.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it depends. But like I said, our main focus is to try to rehabilitate a historic place. So it doesn't necessarily have to be used for its historic use.
Okay.
We like to take on projects that are can be viable and sustainable in and of themselves. So we help people come up with ideas for a new use, and then
So it may be an old historic home, but maybe it'll be repurposed as something else for the
Sure.
community or just something else. And do they need to be able to show you, or do you help them find?
we help them. Yeah, we help them through that process of defining what that new use could be.
Yeah.
A lot of times, that's usually where people have the most trouble. We all have the same passion and gusto to save these buildings because we think they're so special and we walk by them every day and they're part of our lives and our history.
Right.
But how do we keep them alive in a sense that future generations can continue to appreciate them, but they need to be viable and sustainable by
We're
themselves.
not all the McMiniman brothers who take all these great
If
historic
only,
buildings,
if only.
and know how to repurpose them. Yeah. Okay, so tell me what you said there are new ones every year, a few new ones. What do you have this year?
So this year we've added 3 new places to our endangered places list. The first one is the Cumberland Church in Albany.
Okay.
It was built in 1892 as the Cumberland Presbyterian Church.
Is this it?
Yes, that's it. It's Albany's only Queen Anne church, and it's eligible for the National Register. It's not listed yet, but it is eligible. And the Friends Group, the Save Our Cumberland Church Friends Group, has done a great job in the first few months of them being on the list of getting a fiscal sponsorship from the local Parks and Recreation Foundation, and they're actively fundraising. And the ultimate goal for the Cumberland Church is to turn it into a community center, pick it up and move it actually, and turn it into a community center. Yes, it sits at kind of an awkward intersection. It's owned by the city right now. It was purchased by the city of Albany in 2000.
Oh, I see where.
Yeah, and they were originally going to move it, but that didn't happen, and it's been mostly vacant for about 18 years. So,
oh, really? That's a long time.
Yeah, so it's starting to
save it now before it's too late, right?
It's starting to show the signs of
see
deterioration. So, very dedicated group of people are working to raise the money to move it just down the block a little bit. There they are. to turn it into a community center.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah, it's got a great space on the inside, as you can see.
That's beautiful. I mean, they've already
it's got a lot of
begun
original
work. Yeah.
Original woodwork and stained glass and everything.
So what else do you have on the docket for this
We
year?
also have the Waldron Brothers Drugstore, otherwise known as the Gitchell Building in the Dalles.
In the Dalles,
And this is the oldest commercial building in the Dalles. It was built during the Civil War.
Wow.
And it was used actually of native stone as well. It was used as a post office, a Masonic hall, newspaper office, lots of different things over the years. And the city of the Dalles bought it in 1978, I believe, to make sure that it was preserved when the Union Pacific Railroad moved its tracks. You can see how close they are to the building. And in 2009, a lot of work went into some maintenance and preservation efforts, but there's no use identified for this building right now, and so it's kind of been on the chopping block as far as maybe demolition. So another really great group of
very close.
Very close.
Very close. To that. So is there a possibility of moving it, or are you trying to find a use for it there?
It might not be viable to move that building just
pretty
based on its
darn old.
access, and because you can see it from Interstate 84 and from town. It's actually you can see the facade has kind of been used as the design for the underpass, and it's a landmark, definitely a local, very beloved landmark. So a group of concerned citizens have kind of partnered with the Main Street organization in the Dalles and a few other places, and they're talking very actively about identifying a new use for that particular building.
Good.
Yeah.
And then the third one is what?
The third one is actually two homes. It's the Robert and Charles Wilson homes, and those are located on in Warm Springs. They're currently owned by the Confederated Tribes of Warm Springs.
Okay.
They're beautiful mid-century modern homes that were designed in the 1940s by world-famous architect Pietro Belluschi.
Oh, he did a lot of stuff in
Yes, he did a lot of stuff in Portland.
I can't remember what that he's very.
But many homes.
Very well known.
And so they were built for two prominent leaders in the timber industry in Warm Springs, and the Confederated tribes have recently reclaimed this land, and they're looking for a way to both preserve the homes and tell their own story about their role in the lumber industry in Central Oregon.
Oh, that's great.
As well as possibly the reuse plan for this is to create a fly fishing destination. That's one of the things on the table right now, because you can see they're right on the banks of the Deschutes River, which is world class.
Perfect.
Fly fishing.
Yes.
So that's another project they're partnering with the University of Oregon graduate program and a local architectural firm.
Their architectural program at U of O?
Yep, their historic preservation program.
Oh, historic preservation program.
Yep, and they've gotten a lot of maintenance work and condition assessments done already. But the biggest thing that people have problems with is that new use and how to make that happen and pencil out to be something that can make money and sustain itself over the years.
So that you don't have to keep finding ways to plug money
Right,
into
we don't want it to stay on the list forever. I mean, the places don't fall off the list necessarily in 1 year. If they make great progress, that's great, and we'll move on from there. But they stay on the list as long as they need to make something happen.
Yeah, and if they're not sustainable, they're going to show up on the list again.
Right. Yeah, we don't want that to happen.
So these are all great projects. I know. Closer to home, I heard you're also working on the Jansen Beach Carousel.
Yes, we put the Jansen Beach Carousel on our most endangered places list in 2012. The Jansen Beach Carousel it was built in 1921, originally for Venice Beach, California, and it was moved to Portland in 1928. And it was out at Jansen Beach Amusement Park and then transferred into the shopping center. And it was donated to Restore Oregon, and we are currently very actively looking for a new home for it, but it is huge.
Yeah, I remember that as a kid. I remember riding that as a kid and then taking my kids there when they put it inside the shopping center.
Yes.
So I have a lot of good memories of that carousel.
Ideally, we will be able to keep it in the Portland metro area and have it become a landmark, like Powell's and the Rose Garden. So, but it's a large carousel. It's out of the 4 or 5 of its kind that were built in the 1920s. It's the only one that's surviving.
Really?
And it's 72 horses, I believe, and 2 chariots, and it amounts to about 66 feet by 70 feet.
Yeah, you can't just put that anywhere.
Right.
You have to find the right spot for it.
So if you have half a city block that needs
They'll let you know. You might be interested in it, huh? That's great. So before we run out of time, I know that there's a couple things coming up that you wanted to let us know about. Besides the endangered places, there's a design series for.
Yes.
What's that about?
Every year we put on a mid-century modern home tour, and this year we're calling it a design series because we're going to have a really great lecture and panel discussion on Friday night about mid-century modern renovation projects.
So people that have mid-century homes that want
to fix them up and want to learn the best practices to do that are going to be able to talk to people who worked on the homes that are going to be on the tour on Saturday. So
this is at the Jupiter Hotel, correct?
Yeah, the lecture will be at the Jupiter Hotel on Friday, May 10th, and then on Saturday, May 11th, is going to be the self-driving home tour. We have 5 homes, a couple of Rummers, a Beluski. So
nice.
Yeah.
So they're all over the
they
different
are.
parts of Portland.
There's 2 in Gresham this year.
Oh, there is. Oh, wonderful. Well, and isn't that Mother's Day weekend?
It is Mother's Day weekend, so mark your calendars.
See, I
for
think
gifts.
that would be really fun, and I know my daughter would like that too. So
check our website.
Maybe I'll be seeing you at the tour.
So.
Yeah.
Tickets will be available mid-March.
Mid-March.
So.
Okay. So we can go to the website for that.
Yep.
Then also the other thing I heard about was a Heritage Barns workshop. And what is that?
Yes, we try to put it on every year. We missed last year because of a lot of extra programming that we had to do. But September 14th in Bend at the Holland's Head Barn, our Heritage Barns Task Force is putting on a workshop for folks to come and learn from preservation experts in the field of barns in particular. And also some representatives from our State Historic Preservation Office on how to preserve and adaptively reuse their agricultural resources.
Wow.
So we're really excited about that.
Is this for people that already have a barn, perhaps then they want to restore it as a barn or reuse it as something else?
Either way.
Either way.
Yep.
Okay.
Either way. Anything we can do to help people preserve their barns for agricultural use or for new uses. Obviously, Oregon is famous for being able to turn those types of resources into,
wedding venues and
ventures
wineries
wine tastings and things like that. So there will be people there who've been through those projects themselves and can answer a lot of questions about how to do that.
So what's the most rewarding part of your job?
I think it's being able to talk to people and connect them with the resources that they need, because again, everybody who talks to us has this shared passion for the things that make Oregon, Oregon.
Right.
And it's so great to be able to connect people with the resources to help them preserve those places and pass them forward. Everybody has a story, they're all important, and the only way we move forward as a community and as a state is to share those and have everyone's story available.
I love it. I love it. Great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show, Caitlin. And I've learned a lot because I really didn't have any idea how much work you were doing in this state, and it's good stuff.
We have a great staff and a very dedicated group of volunteers that help us. Everything we do is a group effort. So.
Can you use more volunteers?
Always.
And what kinds of things would volunteers do?
We have several committees, our Mid-Century Modern Committee, the Heritage Barns Task Force. We do a lot of policy and advocacy work that we definitely need people for, especially now we're in the middle of we're starting a legislative session that we're going to be working on.
So if this is something that people are interested in, this would be a great place to do some volunteer
work. If you have
work.
a passion for any type of historic preservation, we have a place for you.
Wonderful. Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You bet. Thanks so much for watching Community Hotline. This is a new volunteer opportunity. If this is something you're interested in, which it is very interesting, please do check it out. Look at their website and find out more. I'm Monica Weitzel. We'll see you here next week on Community Hotline.
Community Hotline is made possible with generous support by Gresham Ford, the dealer with a heart. The Contribute to the Community program provides the opportunity for the Gresham Ford team to make a positive impact, serving their customers and helping people across the community. The Outlook, serving the residents of East Multnomah County for more than 100 years. The region's #1 source for information, The Outlook provides readers with intensely local coverage of the issues and people that impact our lives and community. The Mount Hood Cable Regulatory Commission, advocating on behalf of the public interest on communications policy issues at the local, state, and federal levels.
And by Stamp Connection and BeFit Gyms. A very special thanks to all the sponsors who help make our programming possible.
MetroEast dedicates this episode of Community Hotline to the memory of J. Benjamin Peters. Ben Peters interned and then worked for MetroEast Community Media as a camera operator and assistant and helped run the equipment room. In 2017, Ben received the Rookie of the Year award. He was involved in production shows like The Bodysmith, Community Hotline, and municipal and school board meetings. He enjoyed filming community meetings the most and felt he was helping bring information to people who otherwise would be unable to access it. And his dream job was to be a cameraman. He will be missed greatly by all of us at MetroEast.
Hi, I'm Benjamin, and this is Angie.
We're with Multnomah ESD Hospital School Program at Unity Center for Behavioral Health.
Every week, Community Hotline introduces you to local nonprofit organizations like ours, working to improve your world. Tune in.
Community television is what participatory democracy is about.
Like my friend Laird Ross says, it's the last great American soapbox.
It gives me a voice.
I'm glad it's available.
It's incredibly important to protect a place where all users of locally based nonprofit media have a place to speak and share their stories. Community media is priceless.
Valuable.
Community media lets you tell your story to fit your needs.
My favorite thing about community media is it's got to be the people's shows.
I think my favorite one is Karaoke Oli.
Oh, Karaoke Oli's a good one.
We sing live karaoke on TV for an hour.
Hamster versus Monster.
Nap Time with Kittens.
Community media brings programming like Chambers of Commerce, the Faith Community.
Psycho Chicken.
Do you have any UFO shows?
No, I wish we did.
I would like one of those too.
Yeah.
Children's programs, high school sporting events, and of course the ubiquitous city council meetings.
Only when we hear from folks in their own voices with their own stories can we truly connect.